Prologue, September in New York City. It was one of those muggy Indian summer nights where Detective Sergeant Dan Thomas of the 113th Precinct in Queens sat at his desk thinking about his latest case. He was now in his third hour of overtime, and it didn't look like he was going home anytime soon to splash around in his new pool with wife number 2 as he'd promised. He'd just left a horrific crime scene where a local man had been found dead in his apartment, burned beyond recognition. Both his partner and lieutenant had already come to the conclusion that this was probably some unfortunate accident, or perhaps even a suicide. But Dan's gut told him different. It told him this was a homicide, and in all his years on the job, his instincts had never led him astray. So instead of heeding the advice of his lieutenant and letting the case go until morning, Detective Thomas sent his partner to the fire marshal's office to see if she could find out the exact cause of the fire. He also had a couple of uniformed officers bring in some of the dead man's neighbors for routine questioning. Maybe one of them would be able to shed light on the situation. Thus far, they'd only turned out to be concerned citizens, singing Kumbaya and praising the deceased as if he were the next Messiah. But Detective Thomas wasn't convinced. Nobody's this well loved, he thought. Dan, his partner Detective Keisha Anderson called as she entered the squad room waving a folder. She was panting, as if she'd literally run the entire way from the fire marshal's office. I gotta give it to you, partner. Your instincts were right as usual. Fire marshal said it was definitely not an accident. They can't tell exactly what started it right now, but someone used an accelerant to start the fire so they could contain it to one room. Thomas nodded his approval. Nice work, Anderson. Those idiots over at the fire marshal's office usually take 2 weeks to get us anything relevant. What'd you do? Promise to sleep with one of them? Thomas laughed. Nope. Promise you would, his partner replied with a laugh of her own. Big burly guy named Sullivan. He said he likes to be on top. So you're catching tonight, not pitching. Thomas gave her the finger, and she shot back. Hey, just thought you might want to be prepared. Anderson handed Thomas the file, then sat on the arm of a nearby chair as she waited for him to read it. When he finished, Thomas looked up, trying to hide a vindicated smile that spread across his thin lips. He'd call the wife and tell her the pool would have to wait. Once again, his intuition had been spot on. He looked over at his partner. So where do we go from here? She asked, as Thomas got up from his chair. Thomas didn't say a word. He gestured for Anderson to follow him as he headed toward another room. Once inside, he pulled back a curtain that revealed a large picture window, which served as a two-way mirror. You want to know where we go from here, Anderson? Thomas asked as he stared at 5 people sitting on the other side of the glass. For starters, we're going to drill each one of them until we find out who the murderer is. Walking away from the glass, Thomas retrieved a small notepad from his suit jacket and began flipping through pages. His partner watched the 5 suspects. They were all eating fried chicken from Popeyes and drinking soda and coffee ordered by the lieutenant and paid for by New York City taxpayers. I don't know, Dan. They all look like one big happy family, she shrugged. What makes you think one of them is a murderer? I mean, there's still the possibility of suicide. Possible, but not probable. This guy didn't kill himself, and my gut tells me one of them did the job for him. Thomas walked back over to the window next to Anderson, and they observed the group on the other side. What do you mean? What do you see that I don't?